Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Open Skies Hypnotherapy podcast. And today's topic, which is a difficult one, it's a sensitive subject. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about maternal jealousy. Now, maternal jealousy is quite a difficult topic for us to unpick. And even hearing the words maternal jealousy may cause some of you to immediately begin to feel quite uncomfortable, quite uneasy in the body. So, if you are triggered or struggling with the concept, I just urge you to please be gentle with yourself as we go through this recording. Just take some time to scan through the body. Just think about the areas where the uncomfortable feelings are holding themselves within the body, and just become aware of where those feelings might be. We're just observing. We're not taking any action at the moment. We're just observing where the unease and the discomfort might be manifesting within the body. And just be very gentle as we go through the recording. So, the reason I'm going to talk about this is because I am writing my fourth book at the moment, which is a book called Whose Stuff Is It Anyway? Now, it's a book about how we relate to each other and how we relate to ourselves. And within the huge amount of information that's going to be in this book is a segment about maternal jealousy. And I wanted to just talk about that a little bit more today. The background to my own story is that I have experienced maternal jealousy both as a child and more recently as a parent. Now, I want to start this section by saying that I don't hold any bad feelings or blame towards my parents. I don't have a relationship with them anymore for a variety of reasons. Mostly that's about setting a boundary, about the kind of behavior that I'm prepared to be around and the kind of energy that I want to surround myself with. I'm extremely busy and I don't really have time for a lot of drama or issues, so I am very protective of my space. That does not mean that I hold any blame towards them, because in therapy we talk about acceptance of each other and of ourselves. And I understand that we all come from our own backgrounds. And until we go on a journey of self awareness, we don't question the tools that we're using or the way we're behaving. And I understand that and I accept that. So this is not about blame at all, but I'm using my own story to illustrate the effect that maternal jealousy can have. So I will start by just talking very briefly about my own mother, who was a lady who couldn't really function on her own. My biological father left my mother when she was pregnant with me. And within a very short space of time, she had moved in with my stepdad. And he, as a child, I remember that he worked very hard. He worked night shifts, he earned good money, and my mum never really did much in the way of work. She might have had the odd little part-time job here and there, but nothing particularly much, really. There wasn't much happening for her career-wise. She was a woman who didn't really have any hobbies or interests, didn't have many friends. she gave off quite a negative energy, which I think perhaps put people off. We never really had holidays. She hadn't really seen much of the world, and her life had been quite, I'm going to use the word empty because that's the word that I would use to describe it. I, on the other hand, have been on my own as a single parent for 6 years. In fact, it's just over 6 years. I homeschool my daughter. I work as a property solicitor. I run a therapy business, which includes not just seeing clients, but also recording podcasts, doing advertising, sorting out my accounts. I write self-help books. I write novels. I go to dance classes. I go to the theatre. I go on holiday. And I have quite a full and fulfilling life. And I think that my mother is perhaps threatened by me in some way. Perhaps there's some jealousy there when she looks at what I've managed to achieve versus what she has managed to achieve. And she would probably have a very different story because as humans, we all have our own version of reality. And I can only talk to you from my own version of reality, which is what I'm doing. But it's very hard as a child, even as an adult child in my 40s, it's hard for me to understand. It's hard for me to comprehend what's happening, and it's very hurtful. And my child part, I talk a lot about our child part because most of my work is childhood trauma healing. When we're talking about childhood trauma, we don't just mean abuse or terrible things. It can be small incidents that have been sustained over time to create an overriding impression of trauma. And my child part is confused. My child part is desperate for affection. My child part is desperate for pride in my abilities and my achievements. My child part is desperate for somebody to fly the flag for me. But the sad reality is that I didn't have that. I didn't have that, or at least I feel very much that I did not have that. Um, and my child part is hurt and doesn't understand why I didn't have that. Now, when we talk about human needs, one of our human needs is to feel that we have attention and to feel that we belong somewhere. And I never felt like I belonged with my mum. I never felt that. What I saw was jealousy and resentment. I didn't see pride. And when we think about jealousy and how big an emotion that is, it's huge. It takes up a lot of space in our mind and it doesn't really leave much room for any other emotion. People talk about jealousy being an all consuming emotion, and I think that's correct because my own experience is that jealousy doesn't leave room for any other feeling, it doesn't leave room for pride. And I'm really sad to say it also tends not to leave much room for love. Some people will say that they are jealous of their partner seeing other people because I don't mean in relationships, I mean going out as friends. They might get very jealous when their partner goes out with another friend or something like that. And they might say it's just because I love them so much. Well, it's not, is it? The reality of the situation is that overriding feeling of jealousy is coming from somewhere for you, and that is your stuff to be worked through. That is not something that we can project onto our partners or indeed our children. But what happened in my mother's case was that rather than understanding that emotion and working through that emotion, it was projected onto me. And again, I don't have any blame because she's only got the tools that she's got, you know, and we can only do what we can with the tools we have. So I understand, and I don't hold any ill feeling, but my child part does hold a lot of hurt. And I have to be very careful now because even having said what I've said there, I do still hold some feelings of jealousy towards my own child. And that's extremely hard for me to admit to you because I'm a therapist and I should, well, you would think that I would have it all sorted, but the reality is, as therapists, we don't have anything sorted. We're just humans, just like you. We might have a higher level of awareness because of the training we've done, but it's one thing having the awareness and quite another thing to put that into practice. And I think about the fact that I'm 45 and, I'm middle aged and my youth has gone and I've missed out on so many things and my childhood wasn't what I wanted and my early adult years weren't really what I wanted. And I feel that I wasted a lot of time. I feel that a lot of my dreams were scuppered, they weren't allowed, they weren't nurtured, they weren't seen as being dreams that were achievable or suitable, so therefore they remained just dreams. And when I look at my child, who is 9 and very pretty and beautiful and has her whole life ahead of her and can carve out whatever path she wants, and I will support her wholeheartedly in whatever she wants to do because I understand the damage of not doing that. I do get a little bit jealous. I do think, God, I wish I could go back. I wish I could change the past and actually get my stuff together a lot earlier in life because it wasn't really until I got into my very late 30s or 40 years old that I left my husband. I openly came out as gay. I began to dress more authentically to reflect who I am. I allowed my creativity to be unleashed. I wrote, it'll be 4 books in 2 years by the time this last one is done. I retrained into therapy, set up a business, went on a life-changing journey of growth and healing. But it was quite late, it was quite late, and I feel like that should have been done earlier. And as a therapist, I know the damage of the word should, and I know that it's a word that we just do not like to use because it's loaded with pressure. But I do feel, yes, I wasted those years, and I can't get them back. We've only got the here and now. We can't go back, and that's hard. So, in order to deal with these feelings, so as not to allow them to affect the relationship going forward with my own child, I've had to do a couple of things. And I hope these things might help you too. You may not have even known until today that jealousy is what you were feeling. This recording may have just dislodged something in your brain, and you might have just gone, "Oh my God, I think it is jealousy." And just for now, that realization alone might be enough for today. You might not want to do anything with that today, apart from just sit with it. And that's fine. We don't need to do anything else right now because the realization can be a hard one. But once you've sat with it and you've admitted it to yourself, there are some things we can then do to take steps to guard against the effect of it on your future relationship. So, even admitting that we feel jealous of our children can be a source of great shame. And that is societal stigma, that is societal rubbish. That is society telling us that we should not have emotions that are bad. We should all just get on with it. And those messages are responsible for a huge mental health pandemic in this country, where we feel that we cannot be anything other than perfect. And that is a huge problem. So, shame is not an emotion that I would want anyone to feel when we're discussing this topic, because we're just humans at the end of the day, and we experience a range of emotions, both good and bad, and that's okay. So when we've acknowledged the feeling and we've sat with it for a bit, we can do two things. We can do either some NLP positive reframing, which I love because I'm a very positive person. And we can say, let's not look at what's gone, let's look at what is still possible here and now. I'm 45, and in the last 3 years, I've achieved a huge amount. Not only have I set up a business um, and written 4 books in 3 years, I've also been on a journey of growth and healing. I've moved house, I've set up a business in my little outbuilding in the garden. I've begun to live more authentically. I've continued my love of musical theatre, attending a variety of shows. I've joined a dance class, which before I would never have been confident enough to do. I joined a touch rugby team to face down a fear of team sports that originated from my school days when I was always picked last for the sports team. I've achieved an awful lot in the last 3 years. So let's look at what's still to come. Let's look at the years that are ahead. Let's look at what can still be achieved. It's not too late. That's the positive side. And as much as that's great, I'm afraid we do have to look at the negative side. Because we can't move on until we've grieved for what has been lost or missed. The missed opportunities, the childhood that wasn't what we wanted, the environment we grew up in that we did not deserve or want. Healthy grieving and therapy is absolutely essential because until we work through the sadness and the anger, the resentment, the frustration, we can't move forwards into happiness and peace. So, healthy grieving is hugely important in dealing with maternal jealousy and feelings around what you did not have, and then acknowledging that that is not your children's problem, that is not their stuff, that is your stuff to work through, and only you can work through that. And that can be very difficult. And if you would like help with working through healthy grieving, then do let me know, because it's a process. If we avoid that process, unfortunately, we're either going to affect the relationship with our children going forward, or we're going to be very physically unwell because the body holds trauma, the body holds grief inside. And if we don't allow the grief to come out, unfortunately, we can get quite physically unwell because it will manifest in physical health conditions. And there's a vast amount of literature around that topic. Bessel van der Kolk being one of the most eminent trauma experts in terms of the body keeping the score, which in fact is the title of his book, if you'd like to check that out. So we have to do healthy grieving, and then we can deal with our own. We can recognize this is our stuff. Let's deal with that. Let's not put that forward onto our children. And so reframing, healthy grieving first, after we've acknowledged the feeling, healthy grieving, then positive reframing, and then moving forward. So I hope that's been helpful, and please do let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback and your comments on my videos. If anything in this video has resonated with you particularly, and you'd like to discuss it with me, please let me know. Pop an email to me or a WhatsApp message. You'll find my details on my website, which is openskieshypnotherapy.co.uk. Any feedback, any comments, I'd be delighted to hear from you. If you would like me to cover any other podcast topics in the future, then again, please let me know what kind of topics you'd like me to talk about, and I'll be happy to oblige. So do get in touch, do reach out, do interact with me. I love to hear from you all, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.